I mentioned this in the announcement video, but I have some catching up to do on things that happened nearly up to 2 weeks ago as of writing this, where I didn't yet record or kept mental note of anything. So this is going to be a rough retelling, and it'll be low effort so that I can arrive at the present faster. So it'll be missing a lot of the most embarrassing footage, I'm sorry to say, but there will be more, I'm sure. So at first I approached getting good as I usually did. I went in for kills that I wouldn't get because I missed a shot, or multiple. So I diagnosed this as my main problem and I booted up a strafe aim trainer and went to town. Is that ideal for a projectile semi-shotgun centric character like Genji? Probably not the best. But I also didn't know what else would be better, and I'm practicing Silver 76 on the side. It helped, but ultimately I still failed to make a consistent impact in many of my games. Yet I placed roughly around Gold 3. And practicing a bit before playing was enough to settle around Gold 2, but around this time, the idea of this challenge came to mind, and I began to actually try and understand this game better. I decided that I wanted to see how people actually play Genji, the hero I'm playing the most. The only Genji players my old ass knows are names like A Seagull, Shatter2K, Necros. None of them are around anymore to show me Genji gameplay of the current times, so I just googled Genji Twitch streamers and the first that came up was someone called Hiku. He didn't particularly seem like an educational streamer, but all I needed were some VODs to see how he played. What I gleaned from watching 2 or 3 hours where I could was that generally he'd stick much closer to his team, poking more with left click, and when he saw a good opportunity like a low opponent or an isolated target, he'd dash in for the kill. This was in large contrast to me taking 45 seconds to sneak myself behind the opponent, miss a volley of shuriken, commit with a shuriken plus dash because I'm tilted at my aim, then deflect and then die. Sometimes trading 1 for 1, usually just feeding. Playing more with my team immediately made my play more consistent. I just stuck around my team so that I would get healed quite readily, and attack the tank or close supports in DPS. And if I saw an isolated target on high ground nearby, I'd make sure they at least have to give up their spot. This landed me solidly around Gold 1, close to Plat 5. Meanwhile, I kept up with grinding strafe aim trainers with both Soldier and Genji, practicing my 180s, certain dash combos, but not really understanding how my aim on Soldier is ever gonna get better. Nevertheless, I hoped it would. Because I kept getting absolutely destroyed by people AD spamming, I googled around a bit and had my first encounter with aim theory. It makes sense in retrospect that aiming and dodging has a lot of theory behind it, but somehow that never crossed my mind before. I always saw it as pure muscle memory. The biggest revelation for me was the realization that aim and movement are not the antithesis of one another. Aim doesn't happen in spite of movement, it happens with movement. Adding mirroring movement and holding the mouse still to my aiming toolbox gave me my first moments of feeling like my aim can get better if I back it up with technique rather than mindless grind. In general, the understanding that sometimes I can aim with my left hand rather than my right hand steadied my aim a little, which has calmed my right arm, and that has helped even non-movement aim. I also started thinking more about team comps, but the problem is, I knew there were dive comps and what they were, but I didn't know what else there is. Regardless, I made somewhat of a commitment to mostly try and play around my tank pick. If they picked Doom or Ball, I'd try Genji first. If they picked Reinhardt, I'd pick Soldier. If they played stuff like Junker Queen, I'd pick Reaper. A big problem was that because I don't really understand comps very well at all, I have trouble classifying over half the tanks, so this commitment is kind of half-baked. Regardless, it is good enough to stabilize on the higher end of Plat 5. This marks the end of this little catch-up update, but there will be another too. This one already used a match of the time period of the next one, but instead of just letting it play, the next one will be edited a bit more, for the background footage to show more holistically what I experienced those days. Thanks for watching.